Well, $10,000 gold is just a 4x gain, right, from here. So 4 times. And gold from 2001 to 2011 went up more than that. So I mean, but 4x in 4 years would be pretty big. I mean, the dollar is going to collapse. Gold's going to go through the roof, and I think we're going to finish the de-dollarization process. I think gold is going to reclaim its throne as the primary monetary reserve for global central banks.
Amid a market full of uncertainty, from recession fears to the unwinding of the yen carry trade and rising interest payments on U.S. debt, gold is enjoying a resurgence. It hit an all-time high of $2,531.70 an ounce in August 2024 and hasn't shown any signs of slowing down. Demand for gold among central banks rose in July despite the metal reaching all-time highs, according to a new report from the World Gold Council. The report, released Tuesday and compiled using data from the International Monetary Fund and publicly available information, suggests central banks added a net 37 tons of gold to their holdings, the highest increase since a 45-ton jump in January. Peter Schiff, chairman of SchiffGold and founder and chief market strategist of Euro-Pacific Asset Management, highlighted the potential for a fourfold increase in gold prices, reaching $10,000. He believes this projection is not unreasonable, given gold's performance from 2001 to 2011, during which it appreciated by more than that amount. The reality is that there's a strong argument that gold remains relatively cheap compared to its potential trajectory. In a few years, gold priced at $2,500 might seem remarkably inexpensive. This perspective is bolstered by the growing global trend to move away from the increasingly weaponized US dollar. The development of a new currency transaction platform by BRICS is set to accelerate this transition, further advancing the digitalization trend and fostering mutual settlements in alternative currencies. While Schiff expects the dollar to hit a record low against the Swiss franc by early next year, he thinks it could take a couple more years for the dollar index to reach new lows. In his view, this collapse in the dollar will be a major catalyst for gold's significant rise. As we dive into the video, remember to subscribe and tap the bell icon so you never miss an update.
Well, $10,000 gold is just a 4x gain, right, from here, so 4 times. And gold from 2001 to 2011 went up more than that. So, I mean, but 4x in 4 years would be pretty big. But I think that there's a lot of pent-up price appreciation, because from 2011 to basically 2023, the price of gold didn't really go anywhere. It got to 1,900 in 2011, and it got to about 2,000 in 2023. So in 14 years, the price of gold didn't go anywhere. It just went sideways. And that was kind of the environment that kind of gave rise to Bitcoin, because people were getting frustrated that gold wasn't going anywhere. And so they were buying Bitcoin, and Bitcoin was going up. But now gold has just started to rise again. We've taken out all that resistance. And so I think you're going to see a big leg up in the price of gold. That's going to kind of mirror the magnitude of that initial move from 300 to 1,900, which is a six-fold increase. But I think you're going to see that increase in a shorter period of time than the 10 years that it took for the other six-fold increase. But it's going to be proportionate to that. And I think the catalyst is going to be the rate cuts, the resurgence of inflation at the same time that the economy is in recession. And that sidelines the Fed from even pretending it's going to fight inflation. And so without that pretense, the bottom gets, falls out of the dollar. And I think the stampede or the quiet walk out of the dollar is going to become a stampede. We really accelerated the need to get out of the dollar with the sanctions on Russia. And, that was a big wake-up call to the rest of the world that, you better de-dollarize or you're next. Like what's happening to Russia and Putin can just as easily happen to you if you're dumb enough to keep U.S. dollars, right, as your reserve and U.S. treasuries. So, the world, got the message loud and clear, I'm getting out of this currency. And so that's already underway. But that is going to accelerate when there's an urgency to get out, because then they start to see the dollar falling. And then, you don't want to be the last one holding the bag with the dollar. You want to get out while you can. So I think you're going to see that big break in the dollar. The all-time record low for the dollar index is about 70. And right now we're just above 100, 101. So, we have a ways to go to crack to all-time record lows. Again, I said we'll crack to an all-time low against the Swiss franc probably early next year. We'll be at a record low against the Swiss franc. But it may take a couple years for the dollar index itself to make a record low, which would, mean a big move up in the euro, the pound, the yen, as bad as those currencies are. And they got a lot of problems there too. We just got them in spades. But once the dollar really cracks through that support, it could just free fall. And that's going to be a big catalyst for gold.
As the United States approaches its 2024 presidential election, the dynamic between the two leading candidates, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, is expected to significantly impact the gold market. The surprising shift in the Democratic campaign, with Harris stepping in to replace incumbent President Joe Biden, has introduced a new layer of uncertainty. Notably, there is little discussion about the government's role in managing multi-trillion-dollar deficits, the extensive fiscal and monetary stimulus, and the ongoing accumulation of trillions of dollars in debt annually despite the absence of a national emergency. Central banks worldwide are increasingly trading dollars for gold, a trend that could intensify if Kamala Harris wins. This shift could contribute to the eventual decline of the dollar as the global reserve currency. Peter Schiff has expressed the belief that Kamala Harris would be a worse choice than Donald Trump on many levels. He argues that Harris is likely to blame issues caused by government policies on capitalism, using this as a rationale to implement more socialist policies. Schiff is concerned that such an approach could lead to increased government overreach and further challenges for the economy. Let's now turn our attention to the video again.
I think Kamala is worse than Trump on so many levels. At least Trump likes capitalism. Kamala Harris is a socialist, a Marxist. She was raised by a Marxist professor. Donald Trump was raised by his businessman father. So at least he believes in these principles and might fight to try to preserve them. Whereas Kamala Harris is going to try to blame all the problems that government created on capitalism and use that as an excuse, to implement socialist policies. We got just a taste of that with the price control stuff. But there's a lot more that she's got up her sleeve that she doesn't want anybody to see. But you don't want Kamala Harris as president when it hits the fan, because the types of policies that are going to be pursued are going to be so bad. But also just from a civil liberties perspective, the direction that the Democrats are going through in not just on economic policy, but about stifling even your freedom of speech. Basically, if they win, things will get really bad and we won't even have a right to complain about it, right? That'll be disinformation, right? It's like a government, propaganda. They might as well have a propaganda department in the government. Why call a spade and have a ministry of propaganda? But, what they're doing and the wars, at least if we get a Trump administration, maybe that we can have an end to some wars. Trump is not a fan of war. He's definitely not an establishment guy. And that's what we need. The establishment is the problem, whether it's the Republican establishment or the Democratic establishment. We need to break free of that. But Trump still hasn't gotten his arms around the magnitude of the problem. He still thinks that, he can solve it. In fact, he still thinks that when he was president, America was great, that he made it great. And no, he didn't. The deficits got bigger, including the trade deficits got bigger. He made that a cornerstone of his initial campaign, shrinking the trade deficit, and went up. And of course, it went up even more under Biden, but he didn't turn the trend, and he didn't turn the trend on debt. Trump didn't shrink government. He did a good job with, deregulation. He didn't go far enough, but at least he went in that direction, but he left a lot on the table. But he didn't reduce government spending. In fact, he added the Space Force. We needed that like a hole in the head. We needed to get rid of agencies and departments. We need to do what Milei is doing in Argentina. That's what we need here in the United States. It's just that things haven't gotten bad enough for the public to, be willing to swallow that kind of medicine. The good news is it will get bad enough, right? If that's good news. So hopefully we'll do the right thing eventually. But if Harris is president, we got no chance of doing the right thing. Not with her and whoever controls her. Because even if Harris wins, who knows who's pulling the strings? She'll obviously be a puppet.
The recent surge in gold prices, which have increased by nearly 22% this year alone, underscores its role as a safe haven asset. With its real-world applications and long-standing intrinsic value, gold continues to be a preferred reserve asset over dollars. Its 5,000-year history of preserving value makes it a reliable choice for central banks. These institutions understand that gold can be exchanged for other currencies or strategic assets, which is driving their increased purchases. What factors contribute to gold's historical ability to maintain value over thousands of years? Drop your comments below and let us know what you think. If you found this video helpful, please like it and subscribe for more. We're grateful to have you with us on this journey.